The best tournament of my life, and I almost didn't go. This is that story of how crabs became the apex predator of 40k. So here's where I'm at. 10th edition has been an incredible ride. You've watched a lot of it with me on this channel, but by the time the UK Games Expo rolls around, I am cooked. Genuinely tired, 11th edition is right around the corner, the meta is about to get blown up and rebuilt from scratch, and there's a part of me going, maybe I just take a breath, wait for the reset and sit this one out. And the event itself isn't a small ask either. This is in the NEC in Birmingham, one of the biggest hobby events in the country. 8 rounds over 3 days. And crucially, it's only the second time that Games Workshop have run a grand tournament in the UK. This was the follow-up to Warhammer Fest back in 2023, and the field was going to be absolutely stacked with the best players in the country and further afield. I'm thinking, wrong moment, wrong energy, wrong everything, I'm passing. And then Paul is bad at stuff texts me. And if you don't know the context, Paul and I have been doing some coaching sessions together. And this tournament was meant to be the finale, the capstone of what we've done. And he wanted to go the end of that journey as a pair. And look, what are you going to say to that? No, I'm not going to say no to that. So we go down on Thursday, and that's just to kind of take a minute, pick up the event tickets, have a chat with everyone, have a wander around the NEC, and get mentally ready for what's to come. And genuinely, it was one of the fantastic moments of the tournament, getting able to just see everyone, see the event pack, see how everything was set up, because we knew that we needed to be ready, because the game doesn't care when you're tired, it just waits for you. But here's the honest version of where my head is going into day one. I've done zero specific prep for this. None. I've never practiced on GW terrain, and GW terrain has its own quirks, rhythms, and sometimes questionable amounts to it. But there was an even more brutal mechanic in here. After round 4, halfway through the tournament, you get split into positional pods based on your record. If you go through to the top pod, the championship bracket, that is where you will only go against the best players. If you don't make it, you cannot come any higher than 17th. I'm showing up already half convinced this is going to go wrong, and I'll go into Sharks in rounds 1 or 3. But showing up is what matters. Having someone next to you whose journey you've been a part of, and that's genuinely excited to be there, that really helps with contagious energy. You stop thinking about the burnout and you focus on what's in front of you. You stop second guessing and think about the friends surrounding you. So that Thursday really helped me just center my brain and push into that Friday morning, not thinking about 11th and not thinking about the fatigue of 10th. So we get into day 1. It's a Friday, 3 games, and it's random in bracket. So this is where the weekend starts to become something. Round 1, we took on Ultramarines. 2 Lancers, smashed them to bits. Next, we played Orcs. This was a particularly entertaining game because we got a little bit drunk. And then finally, I took on Scott McCutcheon from Team Scotland in my round 3. And I'm going to do a couple of little highlights from the games that I played. So obviously, I'm not going to run through the full 8 rounds because that would make this video like 3 hours long if I went into the normal detail that I would, but I wanted to just pick out some really critical moments. So this is from that game against Scott with his Imperial Guard. So it's round 3, playing Search and Destroy, Take and Hold, Chaos Space Marines versus Guard. Really interesting matchup. I think it is slightly Guard favoured. I think that Chaos Space Marines have the damage output. However, Guard have a lot of great tools to really deal with them. And if you don't pick up that full brick of Guardsmen or like Kassakin and things like that in your Overwatch, you're in a bit of trouble. So this is a little bit later in the game. We've been skirmishing for a while. Most of the board is dead at this point. And what I decided to do was go Hail Mary. And I must admit, I was about 4 pints deep at this point. So I might have gone for the slightly crazier strategy. but it paid off. You can see the Defiler at the top of the screen is in a rather interesting spot. It can't actually get a line to shoot that Dawn. However, there were some Kasrkin in front of it and it made very short work of them. Now, Abaddon charges straight into the 26 brick of Cadians and pushes hard after the Defiler in the bottom area had taken out a big chunk of them that was standing on the objective. That really allowed me to push into the next level and the next gear, because Abaddon was able to get into that 26-man brick and neuter it. However, there was still a Rogel Dawn there, and the Rogel Dawn would have put paid to a lot of my design. My Defilers weren't in the best spots to take advantage of this, and if Scott can then go and get his Scions to position themselves and secure his expansion, I'm in a bit of trouble. So I go, well, I'm not going to bother measuring this charge. I'm just going to roll it because it's a long one, and if I get a good one, I'll measure. So I roll the charge. Boxcars, 6. So in goes that Defiler, and the part etched into my memory, and probably poor old Scott's memory too, is me going, yeah, I'll just pop it on your home objective and then hit your Dawn. To add insult to injury, the Defiler then decided it wanted to pop off. Now, this is the same Defiler that in the first turn of the game, with every single buff that Pact-Bound Zealots in all its brokenness can give a unit, failed to scratch a Chimera. And personally, I think it took it quite to heart, because not only did it then kill the first Dawn in Scott's army with its nipple guns, which I will remind you are only AP 1 and a Dawn is a 2-up save, but it went to that next level, made its 12-inch charge, stole Scott's home, and then promptly used its shearing claws to tear that Dawn from full wounds to no wounds. And that was that. Because when the Scions pushed through, I was able to overwatch them and pick up the rest of them. Abaddon chopped through the Cadian brick like it was absolutely nothing, and the board was secure. We had the Defilers. It turns out crabs are quite good. I'll be honest, after that third win, I had to sit with it for a second, because my brain had told me that this was not a good idea, and after that Chimera, I kind of thought I was just going to lose. But that was the threshold moment, when the thing you're dreading turns into the thing you're really grateful you showed up to. And by the end of Friday, I'm nearly locked for that championship bracket. So after a nice relaxing dinner, some chatting in a casino, weirdly, Saturday, day 2, we go into this championship bracket. And this is where you get the chance to hit your pod. That round 4, still random, but you are more likely to be against a higher skilled player. And I ended up going into David Gaillard, which was very tough. But it didn't get easier in the championship pod, because the first player that I then went into was Manny Chima, who won the tournament. And honestly, it was quite intimidating. There's no warm-up, there's no easing into it. Suddenly you're just sitting across from the best players in the world. So David Gaillard beat me in round 4, but oh my goodness, what a fun game. Manny absolutely slaughtered me with Pact-Bound, but then I was able to turn the corner and take down Death Guard Triple Defiler. Here's how. So here comes the critical moment. We were playing, I think it was Taken Hold again, because both of the third rounds on each day 1 and day 2 were Taken Hold, because at that point, let's be honest, you're quite tired. This is my second game in the championship bracket after just being slaughtered by Manny. And it was quite intimidating. I was up against Ian Fintelman from Netherlands, which is the national WTC team, and he was playing the Triple Death Guard Mortarian, Triple Defiler, Mortarian, Mini Mortarian build. Now, he had a little bit more chaff than quite a few other builds. He didn't have any of the Terminators, and I do think that that worked in my favour. He'd opted for some more Malefic Blight Haulers. He'd had a 20 brick of Poxwalkers, which was very interesting, I think, in some matchups. It smashed some matches for him, but in ours, I was able to get an autocannon Defiler into it turn 1 and just pick up the entire brick because I'd gone first. Now, what you're seeing on screen right now is the critical moment in the game. This was after Ian had decided he wanted to push me. He wanted to come out and say, okay, let's stat check you, because I'd just been sitting with the Defiler in the top corner, shooting anything that walked out, secure with my expansion and interrupting his expansion. And that really allowed me to kind of dictate the pace of the game, even though I had gone first, which is usually quite a bad thing in Take and Hold. Now, Ian pushed out with the 3 Defilers, getting them into position so that they would be able to shoot me next turn, because I pre-measured every single one and stopped them really having any lines to any of my relevant units, with the exception of the Defiler, which obviously I would just loan up because Pac-Bound Zealot is fair and balanced. So, Huron runs straight into the middle. I roll a 5 on his advance, which I was very, very pleased with because it allowed me to really choose where I wanted to go. This operation was kill as many Defilers as possible. Ian did have 4 CP at this point though. I think it actually may have been 5, but critically he had the 4 CP for -1 damage in both the shooting phase and the combat phase, which is a little bit stressful. So my Defiler at the back of the board was actually unable to see anything apart from the Malefic Blightholder, which was a little bit problematic because I'd had to go back just to make sure that he couldn't drop Typhus in a position where I wouldn't be able to shoot him, and then where he could go and contest my home objective, because that would have been quite problematic. The Defiler, it did a good job at doing that, but in all honesty, I probably should have positioned it a little bit better. On the other flank, Vashtor was being a real pain in the backside, just going, right, I'm going to sit here, there's no Defilers that can come and shoot me. If they come out and shoot me, I'm going to kill you with all of my Defilers, which I was very, very happy about. But now we've got these 3 Defilers in front of us, and I've only got 2 and a Forge Fiend to shoot them. I decided to go for it still, with Vashtor looking to flame one of them, the Forge Fiend, the Las Cannon Defiler, and the Autocannon Defiler shooting. Now, the Autocannon Defiler decided that this was the perfect time to fail every single Dark Pact throughout the course of the game, which isn't ideal, I'll be honest, not exactly what we would want when we're really in a critical game, and it had got itself all the way down to 2 wounds, where it was promptly shot on the return fire by Mortarian's Defiler using his ability, and then killing off my Defiler where it was wounded. However, the Defiler and the Forge Fiend on the other flank were able to kill the Defiler directly in front of them. There's a lot of Defilers in this matchup, and then all the other guns put the -1 damage Defiler down to 5 wounds. So even though my Defiler did die and did explode and did quite a bit of damage to my models, I was able to keep pushing. Abaddon stepped up and killed through some Spawn and the last of the Malefic Blightholder, but critically Huron charged through to 2 Defilers. Now, with Huron into both of these Defilers, I had to split my attacks, but that forced a nasty choice for Ian. He needed to work out where on earth he put his -1 damage. He opted to go for the full wound Defiler for the -1 damage. I have access to a very powerful strat with the Huron Brick, which is re-rolling all wounds because they are Chaos Undivided keyword, alongside being Slanesh keyword, because again, Pac-Bound Zealots is fair and balanced. So I was able to put one of the Defilers down to 2 wounds and finish off the badly wounded Defiler. I may have got my allocation of attacks slightly wrong, I think, because I had a few left over for the 5 wound Defiler, but equally I think I did spike a little bit on that, and it's always a risk when you are wounding on 5s and 6s, which obviously the entire Huron Brick is, despite its rerolls. But at this point, we've killed 2 Defilers, and the last Defiler is on 2 wounds, with only Mini Mortarion and Mortarion as anything relevant that can hurt me. I've won one of the flanks, and Vashtor is very valiantly holding the other, with a Defiler and Forge Fiend pushing up to support him. At this point, the game is done. The Defilers have done their work, and even though they tried their very best to explode and kill me, we managed to sneak the win. So we're heading into Sunday at 4-2, still alive, still in it, but the bracket has made very clear that there are no more easy games. So, another 2 to go. Still in the championship bracket, can't win the tournament, but that's fine. Round 7, throws David Gaillard at me again. David hosts Fireside Chat, and he also captains New Zealand, and by any objective measure, he is one of the best players in the game, and he'd already beaten me on Friday. And I had to go against him again. That's slightly worrying, because you can see the big scary monster when you walk towards the front of the cave, but you have to go in anyway. Now, this one gets particularly spicy because we were having a really great time, and David is one of the most wonderful opponents you could come up against. So let's run into that game a little bit more. So this moment comes just after David's go turn. I had forced him to go all in. I didn't really have a choice. I had to be aggressive, and after the last time we'd played, we discussed it, and he definitely agreed that by being aggressive, it was putting me in a far better spot. So that's what I did, particularly with how survivable Vashtor is in that matchup. Now, you've just seen that David is spread all across the board. He is dominating the board presence at this point, and he's even snuck Gaunt's Ghosts right into my backside, which was quite upsetting. I didn't really enjoy that one. It was rather brutal. But critically, we had some play still. Now, Huron was mostly dead at this point. He had his medic, and he also had his special wizard, but that would be enough to deal with the graves in front of me. The Defiler, without any bonuses to it, needed to go and deal with those scions, and by my god, it did. It just slaughtered them like it was nothing. I've never seen so many 5s and 6s without rerolls. It was just insane, the amount of hits, the amount of wounds. Just this Defiler popped off and went through that entire brick of dudes like it was absolutely nothing. The other Defiler in the center pushed up and pushed through, taking down basically everything that was in front of it. It split fire between the Aquilons and the Chimera, blowing them both up, because critically, the Aquilons were strung out to block me off from getting Abaddon into the Scions that were behind on David's expansion, which was really the critical bit. They had been what had dealt with my Defiler down in the bottom corner, which was a little bit disappointing. It had gone down really quickly, even though I'd Nurgle stratted it. But unfortunately, that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So, Abaddon has to push. Luckily, I roll the 6 on the advance, and in I go. And honestly, this turn, it went absolutely nuts for damage output. I cut through so much of this army. Graves died, the Scions died, the Chimera in the middle died, the Kassakin died, the Aquilons, Engineers, the Scions in the bottom as well, leaving just one blob of Scions, 2 Chimeras, 2 Kassakin squads, and the 26-man brick. That was all that was left. Unfortunately, just about every melter mine, every melter just went off perfectly. And there was a big time when David thought that he was done. And unfortunately for me, he wasn't, because had I won this game, I would have potentially won a golden ticket. So a little bit gutted on that. But equally, it was so good to play David twice at that tournament. He is such a pleasure to play. We had fun, we had a laugh, we had moments where we were discussing to make sure that we kind of were both learning from that situation. And I took away so much from that game. David, if you are watching, I really appreciate you, and I cannot wait for us to scrim more as we go into the 11th edition. So I'm going 4-3 into the final round. 1 game left, and whatever I do in that last game is what I take home. The ordeal isn't always that loss. Sometimes it's choosing how you respond to it with 1 round left and how you're going to push into it. It's round 8 versus Eldari and my captain of Wales, Josh Townley. He sees my list. He goes, "Yep, can't beat that. Let's head home." And that gives me 7th. Championship bracket, 5-3 overall, with 6 international players out of the 8 rounds. This was on terrain that I had never played on, and I nearly skipped it. The caliber of this field was something else, and being able to get what I scored, I was so proud of myself. It's not a fluke. The preparation that I took to this event was poor, but the core of making sure that you bring 3 Defilers and just outskill all your opponent, I'm lying at this point. Defilers are cracked. They need a nerf. Thank goodness that 11th edition is coming, because we now know that we don't have to deal with this anymore, because the road back to competitive 40k is never easy. The reset button doesn't care how you've done in the last season, but we are throwing ourselves into the new edition, and I cannot wait. Which brings me into a really nice point. I want to give a little bit more love to David and how fantastic he was. He beat me twice, and he is so much more than a result on that record. Both games were so chill, so much fun. It was just so exactly what you would want competitive 40k to be. We both supported each other. We both had a laugh. It was non-stop fun the whole time. After a really quite tough start to 2026, and I won't go into the details on that, this is the first weekend in a long time where I felt a lot more like myself. And the friends that I had surrounding me, both new and old, really helped take it to that next level. And so that's that. That's what 7th at the UK Games Expo actually was. It wasn't a result, it was a reminder of why it's worth playing. And it was why I was really glad to go to this final 10th edition tournament. So if you are watching this as someone who's tired of the grind and of this very crab-based meta, I get it. And that's why I wasn't going to the event, but you should show up anyway. Not because it will definitely go well, and not because you genuinely don't know what you're capable of until you walk into the room and find out. It's just because it is fun and awesome to be around a community of people. And now we get to go into 11th edition with new rules, a new meta, and a new everything. I cannot wait to rebuild everything, and you guys get to come along with that journey the whole time. And if that's what you're looking for, make sure you're hitting subscribe, joining the Discord, and being part of something. So stay in the room, and remember, stay loyal, brothers.